just by being creative and thinking outside the box.
Absolutely. And you could do it today. If there was a young entrepreneur who's a bit of a character, you'd end up on the local TV shows. You've just got to think of something that's a bit unusual and different. At one stage, we towed an iceberg into Sydney Harbour. Now, it wasn't a real iceberg, it was a fake iceberg. But I told everyone years before that I was going to tow a proper iceberg up.
The Dixicles.
And chop it up into little icicles and call them Dixicles. And that got publicity itself, and people believed it. It was just, I completely made it up. But then one of my staff said, Dick, April Fool's Day is coming. Why don't we tow a fake iceberg into Sydney Harbour? So we hired a big barge and we hired plastic sheeting and shaving foam and firefighting foam, and we towed the iceberg just as a barge at night out from Sydney Heads. And then what we did, we notified every newspaper and every TV station that the iceberg was coming. And we said we didn't say it was coming tomorrow because that would have been April Fool's Day and they would have been suspicious. So we said the iceberg's coming next week. And in the end, the media in my home, the phone just jammed with the media ringing me up about the iceberg. The next morning, we got all of our staff, we had about 300 staff, to ring the TV stations and radio stations and newspapers and say, what's that coming through the Heads? It looks like an iceberg. So all the switchboards were jammed. So they realised there was something big was on. And then through the Heads in the rain, it was a rainy, misty morning, we had a tug towing the iceberg where we'd spread the firefighting foam and the plastic sheeting, and it just looked like an iceberg. And it was April Fool's Day, of course.
Were you on the iceberg?
I was on the iceberg. And as we towed it up, we towed it right up to the Opera House. And when we got it to the Opera House, we announced we're live on Radio 2SM. We had a two-way radio on the 2SM. And when we got to the Opera House, we announced that it was an April Fool's joke. And on the way, we had thousands of people on the headlands who'd come to see the iceberg. And even today, if you look up world's greatest hoaxes, it's normally on that list.
That's fine. Getting your own team behind to support it.
And it cost about $1,200 to hire the barge and the tug and buy the firefighting foam and to buy the plastic sheeting, about $1,200. And it got us coverage around the world and is still getting coverage.